What is up? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back and welcome into Seattle Mariners postgame recap. Mariners lose this afternoon 3-2 to the Yankees. They lose the series, losing 2 out of 3. They fall to 23-19 on the season. I haven't checked the standings, but I do believe they are still in first place in the American League West. Before I go any further, as always, if you guys can like the video, it helps out tremendously. Hit that subscribe button if you're new or lurking. About 20% of the views are from people that aren't subscribed. So if you're watching, just if you can hit that subscribe button as I'm on the road to 5,000, it helps out tremendously. And don't forget to comment your thoughts on the team and the game in the comment section down below. Real quick, some injury news. Bryce Miller placed on the 15-day IL. Elbow inflammation, which right away makes you go, okay, I think we were all hoping Bryce Miller would, hope a guy ends up on the IL, but get a couple starts off to kind of reset, but then you hear elbow inflammation and you may go, okay, we didn't want Tommy John for Bryce Miller either. Justin Hollander spoke on it. He didn't sound worried. They said it's not the UCL and that they think Miller's just going to miss the 15 days. I think what happened here is kind of what we've talked about. They're letting Bryce Miller reset himself and they're just saying it's elbow. I'm not saying there isn't some elbow stuff, but they just went with elbow inflammation. So Hollander did not sound worried at all. It's the right move. Bryce Miller's just not right. And whether it was a quick demotion or, something like that, I know we talked about maybe skipping a start. Only reason I didn't really like that is then you're essentially playing a man down for 10 days, which you don't want to do either. So this is the right move. Hopefully maybe 2-3 starts for Bryce Miller is missed. Then he's able to come back and find himself a little bit because his team does need Bryce Miller. They just need 2024 Bryce Miller, not 2025 Bryce Miller. J.P. Crawford was scratched from the game today with a shoulder stiffness or soreness. Dan called it day-to-day. So hopefully that's nothing serious because the injuries have just piled up for this team. And they need JP in there. A little bit of a slump for JP recently, but still certainly better than the alternative. So not worried about it. But if JP's not in there on Friday with the day off tomorrow, I'll start to get a little concerned about that. But hopefully JP is okay. Because again, this team just, eventually got to stop with the injuries because it's going to pile up and this team's going to just not have enough time to recover from it. Mariners finish up a awful homestand here. Going 1-5, swept by the Blue Jays, lose this series to the Yankees. And it's just amazing how fickle and cruel baseball can be at times, right? Put yourself back to this game early this afternoon, and you're sitting there. It's the top of the 6th. The Mariners are leading 2-0. Mariners, sorry, I had to pause video there. Mariners are leading 2-0 in the top of the 6th. There's 2 outs and nobody on. What were you feeling? You're probably not happy with this homestand. If someone had sat down, you're at the bar watching the game, you're sitting there like this, someone comes up and goes, how you feeling about the Mariners right now? You'd probably go, looks like they have a chance to win this series here. Really tough against Toronto. Didn't love it. Got some question marks about the team, but it'd be great if they could finish this off and win this series. I'll feel pretty good. I imagine that was most of our thoughts. You win this series, it kind of starts to eliminate some of the sting from that Blue Jays sweep. You get a day off tomorrow. You're a step closer to George Kirby being back. You go to San Diego, which is going to be tough, but then you go to Chicago after that, a chance to maybe do some damage against the White Sox. And all in all, you're feeling okay, right? And then 45 minutes later, the Mariners lose 3-2. And it's, you go on any social media site and it's the collapse of the world here. Now, I understand why people are frustrated. I will always get that. In fact, like I say, my inner monologue absolutely doesn't think this team's winning the division. If you've watched this team for more than, 5 days in your life, of course you're going to go that way. We just don't have a lot of goodwill to fall back on. But this series to me isn't really the problem, right? They were blown out game 1, happens. Then they played 2 coin flip games against the Yankees, a good baseball team. Mariners won one, lost the other. They could have won both. The Yankees could have won both. They played a couple close games and went 500 in them. That's kind of how baseball goes, especially when it's 2, what we think are at least decent ball clubs. So we can say the Yankees are good. The Mariners were, I think we're still not 100% sure what this team is, but for the sake of their records, let's just say 2 good teams. That is baseball sometimes. And that is, how it can go. The anger really should still be at the Blue Jays series. That's the one that hurts you here. Now, it's May 14th. So there's certainly a lot of baseball left. And the hope is by, hopefully in a few days, but by June, July, August, you don't remember that Blue Jays series because you're cooking and you're winning, you're in first place, and those things happen. But as of right now, I still think the sting of today is sting left over from the Toronto series because this one was one that, like I said, there was one blowout. Maybe it was a 4-game series, the Mariners win a blowout and the Yankees win a blowout, then there's 2 coin flip games. There wasn't, but, you get what I'm saying there. And also, again, the sting from going back to the Blue Jays series is that you put yourself in position with the Yankees and Padres, 2 good teams. And what did I say after that Blue Jays series? You could play decent baseball and go 2-4 against the Yankees and Padres very easily. Now, I don't think the Mariners played very decent baseball on Monday, but the last 2 games, the offense wasn't great. I'm not saying they played great ball, but they went toe-to-toe with the Yankees and went 500. They could do that in San Diego and win 1. And then you go 2-4, right? That's kind of my point. And you've put yourself in a position by being swept by Toronto where you don't have to win these games necessarily, but in order to get the good vibes back, you need to. Had you won the Toronto series or even won a game, let's say won that series 2-1, I don't think we'd have any frustration with the Yankees series. It would be disappointing to have a lead going into the 7th and not hold on, but you'd kind of go, yeah, it's the Yankees. They're good. They got you. Let's take the day off and maybe can win a game in San Diego. Now, with all that said about just the overall picture of it, you can't score 2 runs in a game and win 2 games against this Yankee lineup. You can't do it. You need more offense. And last night was okay because you're going up against Max Fried. They needed to do more against Warren today. Now it hurt having JP, scratched. And I do think you're seeing a little bit of the downfall of not having a Luke Raley in the lineup. I think when you look at the lineup at the bottom of the order, there's just no power down there. And home runs are not everything. I'll be very clear on that. You don't have to hit home runs to be a great baseball team, but you just don't have anybody down there that can run into one. Luke Raley was kind of perfect in that 6 hole because he was a bridge to the bottom of the lineup. You're missing that bridge right now that you don't have, and you're just not getting a lot of quality at bats right now through the lineup. I mean, you had to have Miles Mastrobuoni bat leadoff today. And, I love Miles Mastrobuoni. He was one of the few people that waved at me at the spring training game. And I don't think he's been a bad player or anything this year. But playoff teams don't have Miles Mastrobuoni batting leadoff. They just don't. Now, the Mariners wouldn't either if they were healthy. But, we assume JP is going to be back, but Raley's going to be out a while. I consider and say, they're missing Luke Raley. But, Jay, Luke Raley probably isn't coming back until the All-Star break. Leody Taveras has not been very good since coming over. And that's fine. Like he may turn it on, he may not. You've got guys like Canzone who are crushing it in Tacoma, but we've seen Canzone up here. We know what he does. He can run into a couple, but you get what I'm saying. Like there are no just immediate solutions. So I can cry about not having Luke Raley, but if I'm a kid riding my bike and the bike tire goes flat, the kid can cry, but the tire's done. You need a new tire. You can sit in here and cry about it, but it's done. Like there's nothing you can do. So, you got to play the hand you're dealt, essentially. And it kind of went off on a tangent there, but yeah, 2 runs, and they got away with it yesterday. Now, I hate using the word lucky because they were not lucky yesterday. Brian Wu was phenomenal. Luis Castillo was very good today. I haven't gotten to Castillo yet. I thought Castillo threw the ball exceptionally well and a nice bounce back from him after the tough game against Toronto. But they scored 2 runs yesterday, 2 today. Not going to work against the Yankees. It's just not. You've got to put more on there. Now, they could have had more. Trent Grisham made a great catch, which took away a run or 2 off the board. So maybe that would have been the difference. Who knows? That happens. That's baseball. Julio robbed Grisham of a home run to start the game. So the Yankees can play that what-if game just as much as the Mariners can for this one. Great catch by Julio, too. And cool to see him rob Grisham after what happened on Monday there with both of his home runs. But, yeah, you're just not going to be able to get away with it, scoring 2 runs against the Yankees. So offense has got to be better. It's been great this season, but starting to cool off. And It's just a lineup right now that's got warts in it. I've talked about the warts the last few days. Ben Williamson has really cooled off. Not Ben Williamson's fault, but when Polanco's not mashing 4 home runs in a series and Cal isn't doing that, you notice guys like Williamson not quite being on their game. Dylan Moore's having to play a lot more than just a platoon guy against lefties. His double play in the 8th inning was probably the backbreaker there in that baseball game. Julio's been swinging the bat pretty well. And Cal and Polanco still are too. But, they're just not carrying the team. And you're not getting all those contributions from the bottom. Leo Rivas isn't playing. And I certainly understand that Rivas isn't going to sustain what he's doing. But I think while a guy's hot, you should just ride it out a little bit. You're having to play a lot of Mastroboni, like I said. Leody Taveras has only been up here for a week or so I don't want to judge too much, but he hasn't been great. And I love the pickup. Well, I shouldn't say love. I like that pickup, but there is a chance Taveras is just not a very good baseball player. That is a distinct possibility. And I said that when they made the move. I like the pickup. You needed to do something out there to try get a boost, but Barry Bonds isn't sitting there in the free agent market. Taveras is, if you're going to make a trade or pick up somebody in early May, it's going to be guys like that. So you hope they find something there in the mechanics, but there is a chance he's just not that great. And you factor all that in with Polanco and Cal said not hitting 20 home runs a series, and the offense is going to take a little bit of a step back. It's still been good overall. And like I said, I don't even think last night it was necessarily terrible against Max Fried. And then, like I said, if Grisham doesn't make that catch, they probably score 4 runs today. But they did need to be better today. Today, I put more on the offense. And, I know the bullpen gives it up, but, one of the home runs was Aaron Judge. But that ball was smoked. In fact, it was hit so hard, I almost thought it didn't have the height to get out off the bat. Like, it was not a moonshot home run, but that thing was 117 off the bat, 430, 40 feet. That thing was crushed. That is not a part of T-Mobile that balls get out to that quickly. Just an absolute bullet off the bat of Aaron Judge. He's going to get you sometimes. Goldschmidt has crushed lefties. He is going to get you sometimes. Got to score more runs, especially against the Yankees. 2 is not going to cut it. You got away with it once. Weren't going to get away with it twice. Let's get into the box score. All right, let's get into the box score. Let's start with the pitching. Luis Castillo, 6 innings, 6 hits, 1 run, 1 earned, 2 walks, 6 Ks. A really solid start from Luis Castillo. Got some help from Julio there in the top of the first, and there were some other balls hit pretty hard, but this is a fantastic Yankees lineup. 6 strikeouts, 2 walks, and only 1 run over 6 innings. It is fantastic from Luis Castillo. Really nice bounce back. When we talk about when Castillo has these starts, those are the veteran starts you need. It's a rotation right now. We've talked about struggling. You actually, unfortunately for the Mariners, talking about the offense kind of dropping off, you got 2 really good starts back-to-back from Wu and Castillo. It does remind me a little bit of last year when we talk about, guys going 7 innings of 1-run ball and not getting a win. It's really a shame that Wu and Castillo both pitched the way they did the last couple days, and neither of them can claim a W here. Very, very unfortunate there. But Castillo threw the ball well. Frustrating in the 6th there with a 2-out double by Volpe and Dominguez. But you cannot complain about giving up only 1 run through 6 innings. So phenomenal start by Castillo. Gabe Spire goes 1 inning, gives up the hit, a home run to Goldschmidt. Also has no walks, 2 Ks. Paul Goldschmidt was on the bench. They went to him. It's crazy that the Yankees can just bring Paul Goldschmidt off the bench in a game like this, and he can do that to you. I didn't think Spire was bad other than the home run. You want to keep him in the ballpark, but, those guys are going to get you. Even Carlos Vargas, right? He throws an inning, same exact line as Spire. 1 hit, 1 run. It was the home run, no walks, and 2 strikeouts. Mariner pitchers, 2 walks, 12 Ks. They held this Yankee lineup to 3 runs. It's frustrating, but they did their job. They did. The pitching staff absolutely did their job. You maybe couldn't listen. It looked like Munoz was potentially good to go in this game. You probably could have gone to him in the 8th inning against Judge. I think you'd want your best against their best. You could have also walked Judge. I would have been fine with walking Judge if there's 2 outs. But here's the problem. If you put him on with no outs, then Bellinger bloops one in there. Now you've got 1st and 3rd with nobody out. And as great as Aaron Judge is, he's still more likely to make an out than he is to hit a home run there. I'm not against if they would have put him on. I would not have been against it. We talked about that with Trout in years past in Seattle, but I also do get trying to pitch to him and getting him out in that situation. You just can't keep a guy like Aaron Judge down the whole series. That's why you needed more runs. And then Colin Snyder throws a solid ninth inning to finish it off. Offensively, tough day for the Mariners. 6 hits, 2 runs, 15 strikeouts. They needed a better performance against Warren. They needed to be better. Yesterday, again, Fried, I thought they had some good at-bats today. Not nearly as much. Master Boney 0 for 4. Polanco was 1 for 3 with a walk. Julio 1 for 4 with the 2 RBI double and was also kind of robbed of a home run. I thought for sure was going to get out of the ballpark. It didn't happen, but a pretty good day for Julio then with the defense as well. Cal goes 2 for 4 as well with a couple singles. So the 2, 3, and 4, actually combined on base 5 times. So they kind of do their job today. Even Randy, right? 0 for 2 and hit by a pitch twice. So on base twice. Rowdy was 0 for 2. Dylan Moore 0 for 1. He did work a walk, but his at bat in the 8th was pretty bad. First pitch, swings at a fastball in on his hands. And I don't know how Dylan Moore didn't beat that out. It was hit super slow. I actually thought off the bat that might end up being kind of an infield hit for the Mariners. And then the Yankees end up turning a double play on that ball. I thought Dylan Moore could have beaten that out. I was a little shocked that he didn't. And it really wasn't even close. It wasn't even bang, bang. He was out by a full step. Like I said, off the bat, I thought maybe this might be a hit. I'm like, well, at least they're going to have first and third here. So maybe someone bloops one in and you tie this game up. So definitely a disappointing at bat there. Again, with some of the stuff you're dealing with, Dylan Moore's is having to face more right-handed pitching, something he struggles with. And I thought that was a bad pitch to swing at. Easy for me to say sitting here, but that's a pitch you take and hope you get a better one later in that at-bat there. It was borderline. It probably would have been a strike, but it was in on his hands. Just, what you can do with that pitch? Exactly what Dylan Moore did on it. Roll over it and ground into a double play. That was a frustrating at-bat. For sure. Leody Taveras ended up being 1 for 4. That error by LeMahieu, they ended up giving Leody a hit on that. Ben Williamson 0 for 4. Rivas 1 for 3. Garver pinched hit for him was 0 for 1. I know some people didn't like that. If there was no outs in the 9th inning, I'm letting Rivas take that at bat because he's just been better at getting on base. But with 2 outs, I think you're looking at it. Who's got the best chance of running into one and putting one out of the ballpark? It's Mitch Garver in that situation. Although I don't know the way Garver swung the bat, maybe not. But I mean, Rivas has no pop whatsoever. And I get it. You say, well, Rivas could have reached, stole second. Maybe Master Boney gets a base hit. And that's fine. I wouldn't have been against letting Rivas take the at bat. But I do understand what Dan was trying to do there. See if Garver can just run into one and tie it up. By the way, how is Luke Weaver like one of the best relievers in the American League now? If you're a Yankees fan, I'm not saying that insultingly, but we saw Weaver here. What did he do to just become like this dominant lights out reliever all of a sudden? He is like one of the best relievers in the American League in baseball. He's probably headed to the All-Star game here. When did this happen? I know he was really good last year for the Yankees too, but what flipped Luke Weaver into being one of the best relievers in baseball? I don't know. But yeah, that's all I've got. 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. Needed a little bit more there. It's going to be tough, right? Because now you're off to San Diego and you're going to have Logan Evans, Jonathan Diaz, and Emerson Hancock. Maybe they do something where, since you got the day off, maybe they go Evans, Woo, and not Castillo, Evans, Hancock, and Woo. Maybe they do that there because then Woo pitched on what was yesterday, Tuesday. So he could pitch on Sunday. So that's definitely a possibility, but it's going to be tough, right? And this is why it's frustrating right now. It's not the record. It's not the first place standing. It's getting swept by Toronto. This series, it happens, but now you go to San Diego. And like I said, you're going to throw Logan Evans, Jonathan Diaz, and Emerson Hancock. I'm not going to lie, that's a recipe for getting swept. It's nothing they can do about it, right? I mean, you don't have Woo or Castillo going in that series. Potentially, maybe like I said, maybe they do work it around and Brian Woo pitches, but you still got to be careful with Brian Woo as well with his injury history and stuff. So you don't have Kirby and Gilbert right now. So, and San Diego's really good. That's a really good ball club. I'm not saying the Mariners are going to get swept. Find a way to win one. I'm not going to lie. If you could take one in this series in San Diego, I'd probably be okay with that. Then you can go to Chicago, have Wu and Castillo going potentially. Then you've got Kirby coming back in Houston, and go time. Right now we can get the ball rolling a little bit and get some W's in there, hopefully. So, just survive the San Diego series. Try not to get swept. I'm not trying to be negative about it, but the Mariners are in a tough patch right now. They're not playing good ball. They're banged up and hurt. Sometimes it's about survival. This Yankees series, if you threw away the Blue Jays series, was not the worst thing ever going 1-2. Same with San Diego, but it's that stupid Blue Jays series that just sitting in there at 0-3 that killed you. You got to beat a team like that. They're not terrible, but you can't get swept. You can't. It would be like if the last two series of the year, the Mariners are home against the Rockies and the Dodgers. If they get swept by the Dodgers or lose 2 out of 3, yeah, they're really good. But if you get swept by that's not even a close comparison. The Rockies are way worse than the Blue Jays, way worse. That's a terrible comparison. But you know what I mean, right? That's the one. That's the series. That was the one. It's not the Yankees series. It's the Blue Jays series. It's not going to be the Padres series. It's going to be the Blue Jays series because you put yourself in position now where you're having to beat really good teams shorthanded. Just like this road trip. If they lose 2 out of 3 of the Padres but get swept by the White Sox, that's the bummer. So hopefully they bounce back and get wins, and doesn't even matter. Have a great night, everybody. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, go Mariners.